When my aunt laughed at my cheap wedding dress, I never imagined I'd get the perfect revenge 5 years later. What happened next taught us both a lesson about true elegance that money can't buy. If you're enjoying this story of sweet karma, hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing tales. My name is Charlotte, and I should have known my wedding day wouldn't go smoothly when I saw Aunt Margaret's face as I walked down the aisle. While everyone else had tears of joy in their eyes, she wore an expression of barely concealed disgust. Her lips pursed as she examined my dress from head to toe. The dress in question was a simple but elegant A-line gown I'd found at a local bridal boutique for $300. It wasn't designer, it wasn't couture, but it fit me perfectly and made me feel beautiful. The delicate lace sleeves and modest neckline were exactly what I'd dreamed of, and when David saw me walking toward him, his smile told me everything I needed to know. But Aunt Margaret had other opinions. "Charlotte, darling?" She cornered me during the reception, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "That dress is quaint, very budget-friendly, I'm sure." She adjusted her own outfit, a burgundy ensemble that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "I suppose not everyone can afford a proper wedding gown." I felt my cheeks burn, but I kept my smile intact. "I love my dress, Aunt Margaret. It's perfect for me." She laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the music and chatter around us. "Oh, honey, you're so sweet to make the best of it. But really, a wedding dress should be special. Something you'll treasure forever, not something you picked up at a discount store." The word stung more than I cared to admit. I'd worked double shifts at the restaurant where I waitressed to save up for the wedding. David and I had chosen to keep things simple so we could put money toward a house instead of one extravagant day. But hearing my aunt's cruel laughter made me question everything. "You know," she continued, leaning closer as if sharing a secret, "I've always dreamed of the most beautiful wedding dress. Vera Wang, actually. White silk with hand-sewn pearls and French lace. It costs $15,000. But can you imagine? That's what a real wedding dress looks like." My cousin Emma, Margaret's daughter, shifted uncomfortably beside her mother. "Mom, Charlotte looks beautiful." "Of course she does, sweetheart," Margaret said, patting Emma's arm. "I'm just saying that some of us understand the importance of quality. When Emma gets married, she'll have the dress of her dreams." "Won't you, darling?" Emma nodded reluctantly, but I could see the embarrassment in her eyes. She was only 19 and had been nothing but kind to me throughout the evening. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. Every time I caught a glimpse of my reflection, I heard Margaret's laughter echoing in my mind. David noticed my mood shift and asked what was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to repeat the conversation. This was our special day, and I didn't want to taint it with my aunt's negativity. Later that night, as I carefully hung up my dress in our tiny apartment closet, I couldn't help but run my fingers over the lace. It was beautiful. It was mine. But Margaret's words had planted a seed of doubt that I couldn't shake. David came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. "You were the most beautiful bride I've ever seen," he whispered into my ear. "Even in my cheap dress?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. He turned me around to face him, his expression serious. "Charlotte, what are you talking about? Your dress was perfect. You were perfect." I told him about the conversation with Margaret, and I watched his jaw tighten with anger. "She had no right to say those things to you. Not on our wedding day, not ever." "I know she was being cruel," I said, but part of me wonders if she was right. "Maybe I should have saved up for something more expensive." David cupped my face in his hands. "Listen to me. That dress was beautiful because you were wearing it. It doesn't matter what it cost. What matters is that we're married now, and we're going to build a life together." I nodded, knowing he was right, but I couldn't completely let go of the hurt. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I made a silent promise to myself. Someday I would show Aunt Margaret that true elegance had nothing to do with price tags. The years that followed were a whirlwind of hard work, small victories, and steady growth. David and I settled into married life in our modest apartment, both of us working multiple jobs to save for our dream house. I picked up shifts at a local cafe in addition to my restaurant job, while David worked construction during the day and took evening classes to become a certified electrician. Money was tight, but we were happy. We spent our evenings planning our future, looking at houses we couldn't yet afford, and dreaming of the day we could start a family. Every dollar saved felt like a step closer to our goals. Meanwhile, Aunt Margaret's life seemed to be taking a different trajectory. I heard through family gossip that her marriage to Uncle Robert was growing strained. He'd made some poor investments, and their previously comfortable lifestyle was becoming harder to maintain. Emma had started college but was struggling with the pressure her mother put on her to maintain appearances. I tried to feel sympathetic, but every family gathering brought fresh reminders of Margaret's cruel words. She never missed an opportunity to make subtle digs about our humble lifestyle, commenting on David's work clothes or our small apartment whenever she visited. "Still living in that little place?" she'd ask with false concern. "I suppose it's cozy for two people, though I can't imagine having so little space." 3 years into our marriage, David and I finally had saved enough for a down payment on a small house in an up-and-coming neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, but it had good bones and a large backyard where we could someday watch our children play. The day we moved in, I called my mother to share the news. She was thrilled and immediately started planning a housewarming party. "I'll invite the whole family," she said excitedly. "Margaret will be so proud of you both." I doubted that, but I agreed to the party anyway. It felt important to celebrate this milestone with our loved ones, even if some of them had been less than supportive along the way. The party was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon in late spring. I spent the morning arranging flowers from our new garden and setting up a simple spread of food in our modest dining room. When the doorbell rang, I smoothed down my sundress and prepared myself for whatever Margaret might have to say. She arrived with Emma, who had grown into a beautiful young woman but still seemed to shrink whenever her mother spoke. Margaret surveyed our home with the same critical eye she'd used on my wedding dress. "Well," she said finally, "it's certainly charming. Very starter home." "Thank you," I replied, choosing to take it as a compliment, even though I knew it wasn't meant as one. As the afternoon progressed, I noticed Margaret seemed more subdued than usual. She wasn't making her typical cutting remarks, and I caught her staring wistfully at our happy chaos of friends and family filling our small space. Later, as I was cleaning up in the kitchen, Emma approached me hesitantly. "Charlotte, I wanted to apologize for my mother's behavior at your wedding. What she said about your dress was terrible." I paused in my dishwashing, surprised by her directness. "Thank you, Emma. That means a lot." "She's been under a lot of stress lately," Emma continued. "Dad's business isn't doing well and she's worried about money. I think she takes it out on other people sometimes." I felt a pang of sympathy for my cousin. It couldn't be easy living with Margaret's constant criticism and pressure. "How are you doing with everything?" Emma's shoulders sagged. "It's hard. She keeps talking about my future wedding and how perfect it needs to be. Sometimes I think she cares more about the dress than about me finding someone to love." Before I could respond, Margaret appeared in the doorway. "Emma, we need to leave. Your father is expecting us for dinner." As they gathered their things, I watched Margaret's face carefully. For just a moment, when she thought no one was looking, I saw something vulnerable in her expression. It was quickly replaced by her usual mask of superiority, but it made me wonder if there was more to her story than I'd realized. That night, as David and I sat on our back porch looking at the stars, I told him about my conversation with Emma. "I'm starting to think Margaret's cruelty comes from her own insecurities." David nodded thoughtfully. "That doesn't excuse what she said to you, but it might explain it." "I know," I agreed. "But I can't help feeling like there's unfinished business between us. Like someday we're going to have to face what happened." Little did I know that day would come sooner than I expected. Our 5th wedding anniversary was approaching, and David had been acting mysteriously for weeks. He'd sneak phone calls when he thought I wasn't listening, and disappear for hours on Saturday afternoons, claiming he was running errands. I suspected he was planning something special, but I had no idea what. "What do you want to do for our anniversary?" I asked one evening as we cooked dinner together. I was thinking we could renew our vows, he said casually, not looking up from the vegetables he was chopping. I nearly dropped the pot I was holding. Renew our vows? David, that's incredible, but we can't afford a big ceremony. He finally looked at me, his eyes sparkling with excitement. What if I told you we could? What if I told you I've been saving up for something special? Over the next hour, he revealed his plan. He'd been working extra jobs and saving every penny for months. He'd already booked the same church where we'd gotten married and arranged for a small reception at a local restaurant. He'd even contacted our original photographer. But there's more, he said, pulling out his phone. I wanted to get you something special. Something that would show everyone, especially your aunt, that you deserve to be treated like a queen. He showed me a photo on his phone, and I gasped. It was a wedding dress, but not just any wedding dress. It was the exact Vera Wang gown that Margaret had described at our wedding. White silk with hand-sewn pearls and French lace, elegant and timeless. David, this is the dress Margaret talked about. How did you— I remembered every word she said that night. He explained. I saw how much it hurt you, and I've been planning this ever since. I found it at a sample sale for a fraction of the original price. It's been altered to fit you perfectly. I stared at the photo, my mind racing. This is too much. We should be saving this money for our future. Charlotte, you are my future, and I want everyone to know how much I treasure you, especially the people who made you feel like you weren't good enough. The dress arrived a week later, and when I tried it on, I felt like a different person. The silk hugged my curves perfectly, and the intricate beadwork caught the light beautifully. It was everything Margaret had described and more. But as I stood in front of the mirror, I realized something important. The dress was gorgeous, but it didn't define me. The simple gown I'd worn 5 years ago had been just as beautiful because it represented the love David and I shared. This dress was lovely, but it was also a symbol of something else entirely. We decided to invite the same people who had attended our original wedding, including Margaret and Emma. I was nervous about seeing my aunt again, especially wearing the dress she'd coveted, but David reminded me that this wasn't about revenge. It was about celebrating our love and showing everyone how far we'd come. The day before the ceremony, I was at the church for a final rehearsal when Emma called me, sounding distressed. Charlotte, I need to tell you something about my mother. She's been struggling lately. Dad lost his job last month, and they're having serious financial problems. She's been putting on a brave face, but I think she's embarrassed about their situation. I felt my heart sink. Emma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. She's planning to come to your vow renewal, but she's been dreading it. She thinks everyone will judge her for not having nice clothes or expensive gifts. I think she's afraid you'll treat her the way she treated you. After I hung up, I stood in the empty church, thinking about Margaret's cruelty at my wedding and her current situation. I realized that this was my chance to choose who I wanted to be. I could use this moment to humiliate her the way she had humiliated me, or I could choose a different path. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. The morning of our vow renewal dawned bright and clear. I woke up early, my stomach fluttering with nerves and excitement. David was already up, making coffee and humming softly to himself. Ready for today, Mrs. Patterson? He asked, kissing my forehead. Almost, I replied, thinking about the conversation I'd had with Emma and the decision I'd made the night before. The ceremony was set for 4 o'clock, but I'd asked Margaret and Emma to arrive early to help with preparations. When they knocked on our door at noon, I could see the tension in Margaret's shoulders and the worry in Emma's eyes. Margaret was wearing a simple navy dress that I'd never seen before, and her usual confident demeanor seemed forced. She complimented our house and asked about the ceremony, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. Margaret, I said gently, could I speak with you privately for a moment? We stepped into the kitchen and I took a deep breath. I know things have been difficult for you lately. Emma told me about Robert's job situation. Margaret's face flushed with embarrassment. I don't know what you're talking about. It's okay, I said softly. I want you to know that I don't judge you for your circumstances. We all go through hard times. She looked at me with confusion, clearly expecting a different conversation. I also want you to know that I've never forgotten what you said about my wedding dress 5 years ago. Margaret's face went pale. Charlotte, Let me finish, I said, not unkindly. Your words hurt me deeply. But over the years, I've come to understand that hurt people often hurt others. I think you were dealing with your own pain that day, and you took it out on me. Tears began to form in Margaret's eyes. You don't understand. I was jealous. You and David were so happy, so in love. My marriage was already falling apart. And seeing your joy made me feel even worse about my own life. I said those terrible things because I was angry at myself, not at you. I'm wearing the dress today, I said quietly. The Vera Wang dress you described. Margaret's eyes widened. How did you— David bought it for me. He remembered every word you said, and he wanted to prove that I deserve beautiful things. Margaret covered her face with her hands. Oh, Charlotte, I'm so ashamed. I was so cruel to you, and now you're going to— I'm going to ask you to help me get ready, I interrupted. I want you to be part of this day, not as punishment, but as family, because that's what we are, and family supports each other through everything. Margaret looked at me in shock. You want me to help you? I want you to help me put on the dress of your dreams, I said, not because I'm trying to hurt you, but because I want to share this moment with you. I want you to see that the dress is beautiful, but it's not what makes a marriage special. An hour later, Margaret was carefully fastening the delicate buttons on my dress while Emma fixed my hair. The three of us stood in front of the mirror, and I saw Margaret's reflection as she gazed at the gown. It's even more beautiful than I imagined, she whispered. But you know what? I said, turning to face her. My first wedding dress was just as beautiful because it represented the beginning of my love story with David. This dress is gorgeous, but it's just fabric and thread. What matters is the love behind it. Margaret nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. I was horrible to you, and you have every right to hate me. I don't hate you, I said firmly. I forgive you, and I want you to know that you're beautiful and valuable regardless of what you wear or what you can afford. I hope someday you'll believe that about yourself. The ceremony was everything I'd dreamed of and more. As I walked down the aisle in the stunning Vera Wang gown, I felt David's love surrounding me like a warm embrace. But more than that, I felt the strength that comes from choosing forgiveness over revenge. Margaret watched from the front row, and when David and I exchanged our renewed vows, I saw her smile genuinely for the first time in years. During the reception, she approached me with Emma by her side. Charlotte, I want you to know that watching you today taught me something important. True elegance isn't about expensive clothes or perfect appearances. It's about grace, kindness, and the strength to forgive even when someone doesn't deserve it. Emma hugged me tightly. Thank you for showing my mother what real class looks like. As the evening wound down, David and I stood together, watching our friends and family celebrate our love. Are you happy with how today went? He asked. I looked over at Margaret, who was laughing with my mother, and seemed more relaxed than I'd seen her in years. I'm perfect, I said. This was exactly what I needed. Later, as we cleaned up, I found Margaret in the kitchen, washing dishes without being asked. You don't have to do that, I said. I want to, she replied. It's the least I can do after everything. As we worked side by side, I realized that this was the real victory. Not the expensive dress or the perfect ceremony, but the healing that had taken place between us. I'd learned that true revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above the hurt and choosing to be the person you want to be. The dress now hangs in my closet next to my original wedding gown, and both are equally precious to me. One represents the beginning of my love story, and the other represents the moment I chose forgiveness over bitterness. And Margaret? She's become one of my closest allies in the family, and she never misses an opportunity to tell people about the grace her niece showed her on one of the most important days of her life. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to let someone else's cruelty change who you are meant to be.